Hi everyone! In this exercise we studied the principles of pencil shading and the difference between shading inside the shape and the shading according to the form and the volume. To begin, draw several circles. Each circle will be shaded in a different way, so you can clearly see how the perception of form changes. Start with the first circle. So draw a random line. This line will represent the darkest area. From this line build a gradient, upward and downward. Because this line is not related to the volume of the circle, the shape remains flat and doesn't read as a sphere. Move on to the second circle. Again, draw a random line somewhere near the center. From this line build a gradient upward. And then repeat the gradient from the bottom edge of the circle towards the same line. As a result, we get two parallel gradients and the form still remains flat. In the next variation, mark a single point inside the circle. This will be the darkest area. From this point, start to build a gradient in all directions, gradually reducing the pressure as you move away from it. This creates the first sense of volume. The circle begins to resemble a sphere. The shading spreads radially, giving the impression that we are viewing from the shadow side. And the light source is located on the opposite side of the circle, outside our field of view. So move on to the next circle. In this variation we shade a circle as a three-dimensional form. Draw an ellipse inside the circle. This ellipse represents part of the surface of the sphere and marks the shadow line. On this ellipse identify the darkest point. From this darkest point begin to build a gradient in all directions, gradually easing the pressure. It is important to remember that not only the point but the entire ellipse is part of the shadow line. Don't forget to give me a like and leave the comment. The gradient is also built from the ellipse itself, but more softly, since the line remains darker than surrounding areas. As a result, the tone is distributed evenly across the form, and the volume of the sphere becomes clearer and more convincing. And now for the final shading for today. Mark a point at the center of the circle. This is where the shading begins. From this point, each stroke moves outwards toward the edge of the circle. The shading spreads in the direction following a spiral path. The gradient develops from the dark line. Each new stroke from the center to the edge is lighter than previous one. This way the tone is gradually softens. Continue shading until you reach the initial line from the opposite side, completing the spiral. Follow me so you don't miss my other videos.